Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Ken Muich, Dr. Ken Muich, Fibromyalgia Wellness Center. And we're going to be talking about some very, very interesting subjects again today, hypoglycemia and fibromyalgia. And is there a relationship? What's going on as far as the individuals themselves? Are they related? Or are they not related? Well, you have to understand something, that hypoglycemia and fibromyalgia are directly related to each other because of symptoms. Many of the symptoms themselves are those the same ones that fibromyalgia patients have, such as sugar cravings and anxiety and tremors and panic attacks and headaches, palpitations, fainting. Many of these things fibromyalgia patients have. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you understand that you may have hypoglycemia along with fibromyalgia. Now, how do you know that? Well, about 40% of all fibromyalgia patients have hypoglycemia. That's by research. And so Dr. Saint Amand, who's been working with fibromyalgia patients almost twice as long as myself, because he's close to 90, he's an MD, and he found that in his patients. And so he actually coined the term fibroglycemia, believe it or not. Fibroglycemia, which is a combination of two of those. And he states that if you only treat fibromyalgia without treating a hypoglycemia, you will not have a full recovery. You will have a lot of the symptoms that fibromyalgia patients have that are actually hypoglycemic. And you have to understand that you have to treat these two together. Otherwise, you will not have success. Now, this is kind of interesting because a lot of patients don't even realize they might have hypoglycemia. So, in effect, what we do is we actually place patients on that restricted hypoglycemic diet to start with, to find out what kind of reaction that they have. Now, the problem with that is that a lot of patients that go on a hypoglycemic diet, they start to cheat. They start to add additional things, even without them knowing about it. As a matter of fact, they may have this. They may have this problem, and so consequently, you may have this problem. Don't even realize it. And it may last even after the initial detox program itself takes place. So what we try to do is follow up on this. If a patient's not improving the way they should, I've got somebody in Minnesota that I'm dealing with long distance, kept on asking her questions, finally got down to the diet. Look, once you get off the restricted hypoglycemic diet, you don't have to go crazy on it. There's no, there are restrictions on certain things. You can overload your liver with carbs. You can overload your liver with trans fatty acids and so forth and so on, so that they don't function. Or you can overload your liver with salicylates, foods that are plant-based, and the liver can't process it, and so consequently, the protocol on guaifenesin will not work because the body's not able to function properly. So you have certain restrictions and limitations. It's easier to work with patients on a face-to-face basis versus long distance, but we're dealing with this. So what is carbohydrates? Well, there's sugars and starches, okay? And these sugars and starches are found in mainly what we're talking about, since we're talking about carbohydrates and hypoglycemia, they're related. We're talking about carbohydrates. Now, glycemic levels are what actual level of that food is. And if you were to take, say, a shot of pure glucose, sugar, okay, that would register at 100, okay, the highest level, 100%, in other words. And when that happens again, high levels release insulin, induces the kidneys to actually absorb phosphate, and then it drives it into the cells, and it intensifies the symptoms of your condition. So what we want to do is we want to keep the glycemic levels as low as we can on here. So if the glycemic highest level is 100 for pure glucose or sugar, what are some of the other levels? Well, you have what are called low glycemic and high glycemic, with the number 50 actually as the level that you don't want to go over, okay? But as you can understand, you have to use a little mathematics on here. So let's say, for example, you eat a red skin mashed potato, which is actually a glycemic level of 91, okay? Pretty high, pretty high. And keep in mind, when you eat that, it induces the kidneys to absorb phosphate, goes into, drives it into cells, and actually causes your symptoms to get worse, okay? So what you want to do is, if you're going to eat this, is you want to neutralize it with things that are low glycemic, like, for example, broccoli, cauliflower, avocados, celery, okay? They're all, believe it or not, zero. They have no glycemic level, zero. And so if you add those up and you add the 91, actually it's not as strong a reaction to your kidneys, they're going into the cells and so forth. So that's what you want to do. You want to balance everything off. Okay, let me give you some other levels. I can't cover all the foods, although I'm going to cover as many as I can. Those things that might be the most common for you. How about a baked potato, 85. Mashed potatoes, like I said, red skin, 91. Spaghetti, 64. Okay. Bagel, a 1/2 bagel, wheat bagel, 72. The bran flakes, a lot of people like their breakfast cereals. That's 74 for 1/2 cup. Cantaloupe, which is a fruit, you would think, well, you know, if some of these things are lower, it might be good. But a cantaloupe is 65, and that's for 4 ounces, believe it or not. So cantaloupe is pretty high. A gluten-free bread, well, it might be gluten-free, but it's got all these carbs involved with it, and that has a high level of as much as 80 or higher. Okay, so let me give you some ideas as far as low carbs. Most nuts, you know, we're talking about the almonds and so forth, are 0. Avocado is 0. I gave you a number of the vegetables that you have. An apple is 33. That's a little bit higher than even I thought. That's for a fresh apple. Carrots are 47, which is kind of interesting. That's getting up pretty high. That's raw carrot. But the good thing is, like beef, chicken, fish, pork, so forth, shellfish, they're all 0, which is great, isn't it? Now, I'm a sucker for red mashed potatoes or any kind of red potato. And so I really have to watch because my sugar levels were going up. Matter of fact, this is extremely important. If you want to stay healthy and you want to keep your sugar low, or if you're diabetic, you want to keep your sugar low, they probably have you on a low glycemic diet, okay, which is great for you because you don't want to have all of this high glycemics going in your system and affecting your cells and so forth adversely. So you will have an advantage on a low glycemic diet if you are diabetic, that's for sure. Now, so what I did was I started eating more sweet potatoes and yams. Sweet potatoes 44, yams 37, but they actually have some that are actually lower than that, especially those that are really the light colored yams. Excellent. Matter of fact, they have some sweetness, natural sweetness to it, and so that would be great. So if you have, say, for example, a white potato and you have a yam along with that, okay, so that would be close to 91 and then 37, so it's close to a little bit over 100, whatever. Guess what? If you balance that out, it's around 50 or maybe 51, 52. So actually that brings everything down. So it's the food combinations that you're actually talking about here that would be really advantageous to you, okay? I'm going to read some things off to you so that you get an idea. Now, you could go into Google and you can find all of these, okay? Just look up, okay, what's the glycemic, Glycemic, glycemic index for whatever you want, okay? For example, an apricot, okay? A regular apricot is pretty high, it's 57, so it's over 50. You want to stay as close as you can or below 50 if you can, and that's for a 4-ounce apricot, okay? Artichoke, 0. Avocado, I mentioned, 0, okay? Beef, 0. You're going to like this, folks. Again, in moderation, okay? All alcohol in beer is 0, okay? Again, in moderation. Just because I said, okay, so that's not like glycemic level, great, I can do this. Okay, all right? 1-2 drinks a week, okay, unless the doctor says otherwise. So if it's 0, like you can't have a 64-ounce steak for crying out loud and expect, you to have no reaction, okay? You can have excess amounts go into you also, all right? And so you want to minimize or eat a normal portion, okay? Now, a normal portion for meat is usually fits in the palm of your hand. Hardly anybody eats that, okay? But again, if you don't eat it every week or every day, so forth and so on, then you should have a good reaction. Brazil nuts 0, I mentioned to you. Most nuts are like that. Let's see. I guess brown rice 50. Brown rice much better than white rice, okay? Which has a higher glycemic level. Let's see. Cheese 0. Thought you might like that. Again, in moderation. Don't overdo it. Cherries 22, and that's for 18 of them, okay? Fresh cherries. Some of you might like this. Chocolate mousse, 2% fat, 31. Pretty good, huh? That's pretty good. Most ice creams, I find, are not too bad. We might get into that in just a few moments. Okay, corn cooked, 60. Kind of high, isn't it? That's for one half cup. Cocoa Puffs, for those people that are into their breakfast cereals. Cocoa Puffs, 77 for 1 cup. Pretty high, right? Cucumbers, 0. Croissant, one of my favorites, 67 for 2 ounces. Wow, that's really high. But again, if you balance it off with something that is low glycemic, that's really good for you. Eggs, 0. Okay, so eggs are 0. I mentioned fish is 0. French fries, 75. Okay, so you know, French vanilla ice cream, 60%, 16% fat, 38 for a half a cup. Well, 38's great, but who eats just a half a cup of ice cream, right? I mean, you don't, obviously. Okay. Gatorade sports drink, orange, 8 ounces, 89. It's really hitting you. Now, I always tell patients, look, if you're going to be drinking something like Gatorade or any of the other ones, 0, you name it, unless you are an athlete and you're sweating like crazy, I would not drink it straight. I always do say 3 to 1. Thank you very much, whoever's listening. Got a lot of followers. Thank you. Hey, listen, if you think this is important, tell your family and friends, okay? Tell anybody you know about this. We give you fantastic information every week, and we save every one of these so you can actually go back, Fibromyalgia Wellness Center, and look at them. This is number 78. Number 78. We're actually tearing apart our fibromyalgia program and explaining to you what we're actually doing and why we're doing it. Let's see, gluten-free multi-grain bread, 79, and that's for 1 ounce, about a slice. If you want to have bread, you want to have Gail Gordon is watching. Hi, Gail. Hi, Gail. How are you? Go live, Gail. Invite. Okay. Hello, Gail. How are you? Hope all is well. You want to have bread. One of the lowest carbs that you can actually get bread-wise is sourdough. So you might want to look into that and enjoy that. Again, within reason. Hi, Nancy. How are you? Hello. Bringing my camera. Yep. Whatever you want to, just join me. Okay, so I got a few other things here. Pretty good. That's for a half. Again, I'm going through foods. Hello, Gail. Hello. I'm going through foods with glycemic levels. That's very, very important if you miss part of this, because glycemic carbohydrates are very, very important. Hypoglycemic people, we find the vast majority of fibromyalgia patients have hypoglycemia. We name it fibroglycemia because the hypoglycemia cannot be taken care of. It has to be concurrent with fibromyalgia, fibroglycemia, so forth. That way, we're going to be treating both. If you only treat one without the other will. Fibromyalgia might get better, but you'll have residual left over from the hypoglycemia itself. We're trying to treat both of these. And one of the best ways is low glycemic versus high glycemic. So if you eat a high glycemic food, you want to neutralize it with a low glycemic food because it gets into your kidneys, it absorbs the extra phosphate, goes into the cells, and intensifies your symptoms. I'm just looking at some of the more common foods that people eat and how they might adversely affect you. Lettuce is 0. Again, most of the vegetables we'll find are 0. Very interesting, Mars bar, okay? One of the candy bars is 68. Let's see, chocolate mousse, 2% fat, is 31. Some of these are surprising, the foods that you can eat, which is great. Let's see, rice noodles cooked, 40. which is great. Oatmeal cookies, sugar-free, 47. Regular oatmeal cookies, 55, and that would be for 4 cookies. Orange juice, unsweetened, reconstituted, 53 for 8 ounces. Let's see. Pineapple is pretty high. That's fresh, 66 out of 100. You want to stay below 50. Plums, fresh plums, 39. I talked about potatoes quite a bit. They're usually pretty high. Pretzels, 83 for 1 ounce. Give you an idea. Some of these things are pretty bad for themselves. Okay. Let's see. What else? Sourdough wheat, 54 for 1 ounce. Again, sourdough rye is 48. I usually do sourdough rye itself. And again, that's for one slice in itself. Anything else that might be? Tomatoes. Let's say tomato soup is 38. Most tomato juice canned, 38, so forth and so on. Okay, white bread, 70. Okay, white rice, 87. I mentioned to you the white rice is a lot higher than brown rice. Again, most meats, chicken, fish, shellfish, turkey, pork, so forth and so on, are 0. Anyway, squash is 0. Strawberries, fresh strawberries, are 40 for 4 ounces. So I've got a patient that is, he thought that as long as he stayed off of certain foods, everything would be just fine. So he overloads on carbs, a lot of fruits, but not very many vegetables. Okay, and so what we're trying to do is correct his diet. I'm going to be talking to him. He's in Minnesota. I'll be getting a diet ready for him so that he balances his diet. He doesn't have a tremendous amount of just a certain number of foods that cause high glycemic levels and cause hypoglycemia. So I know I took a little bit extra time. I could have gone through every one of the foods, but obviously I'm not. I had my gallbladder removed. Great info to know. Lactose-free, gluten-free. Eat salmon, chicken only in my diet along with IBS, but we'll continue to learn as I go along. Okay, I'm happy to hear that I just had a couple of the people have their bladder come out. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that, but I'm so glad to see you're recovering and that you're on a proper nutritional diet. Hello, Jackie. Hello, Linda. Again, if this is information that is practical and information that would be helpful, tell your friends. If you belong to any fibromyalgia groups or any groups at all, many times, like I say, this also relates to not only fibromyalgia patients, but anybody that has hypoglycemia, or also for those that are diabetic. I mean, this diet is a killer for that. I mean, there's just a tremendous amount of information out, the low glycemic versus high glycemic. And it's the things that really are sneaky that get to you, okay? You don't want these things to actually ruin your life, and you're thinking you're eating well. Instead, you're having problems with them. So I'm sorry if I took a little extra time. A lot of information. We're going to be covering more information. Just check with my Fibromyalgia Wellness Center Facebook. And again, invite as many family, friends, so forth. All of these are saved. All of these are saved so that you can check back and look at all the different things. This is, again, number 78th presentation on fibromyalgia and other related symptoms and conditions, so forth. We're trying to cover. I've been working with fibromyalgia patients since 1990 with an MD out of California who has fibromyalgia and who actually developed the initial protocol. I added the little bit additional information as far as pre-protocol. If you want more information on this subject itself, my book is Fibromyalgia, Falsehoods, Fakers, and Facts. That I have available. It's like 3rd edition. I keep on updating it. Also, if you want to get in touch with me, you can just email me, dcken2000@cs.com. D as in dog, C as in cat, Ken, K-E-N, the number 2000, 2000 at C as in cat, S as in Sam.com. You can call my cell phone if you like. If I don't answer, just leave a message. 602-910-6857. Don't be afraid to get in touch and ask any questions you may have. That's the most important thing, that you don't sit in your own little cubicle and say, woe is me. We're here to help you. We've helped numerous patients. You might want to look at my website, fibrowellnesscenter.com, fibrowellnesscenter.com. I did a lot of blogging. I did dozens of blogs on subjects, but I found that blogs sometimes can be sleep-worthy, although they're only maybe 200-300 words long. I like to get in front of patients and talk to them and answer their questions. Thank you, everybody who joined in. Really appreciate it. Again, tell your family, friends, and anybody has fibro, any related conditions, want to know some information. 12:30 every Monday, Arizona time, a live video, Dr. Ken Muich. Everybody have a wonderful, great, fantastic week. Enjoy. Have a good one. We look forward to seeing you Monday, 12:30 p.m. Arizona time. Bye-bye now.